Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's liberation celebration and learn why Americans and Bretons celebrate their shared DNA from World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. Thank you for spending time with me to learn about my history growing up as a baby boomer just after the war. Thank you for learning about me and my father and mother and hearing our stories. I wanted to take you on my journey to Plélo, where I unexpectedly learned how the shadow of World War II impacted my father, my family, and me, and probably you. After my return home to Texas, I began telling anyone who would listen about my amazing experience in Plélo. Everybody seemed to have the same surprised and pleasant and pleased reaction and would tell me that my story needed to be told. My friends, the dentist, my yard man, the clerk, the receptionist, the deputy, they all shared their World War oral traditions with me. Their stories were fascinating. They didn't always have a lot of detail, but the mention of glider pilots being downed in Brittany, planes being ditched in the English Channel, trainees just missing the war because it ended while they were in training, all were rich in meaning. Everyone stood proud as they told their stories, as they should. Sharing our oral traditions drew us together, just as the shared DNA of World War II trauma had connected me to the Bretons. My fellow Americans and I connected through the telling of our oral traditions about World War II. I couldn't stop telling about my visit to Plélo. That's when I first got the idea of learning how to create this podcast. It all started with a conversation I had with our neighbors, Gary and Nelda. They are close friends, and we know each other well. They even traveled with us on a voyage up the East Coast on our sailboat. They were intrigued by our experience at Plélo and encouraged us to share our stories. It was another fantastic coincidence to learn that Nelda has a daughter who is a podcast producer and a grandson who is a tech expert, and they lived 2 houses down from mine. Was this another sign? Jennifer, as a professional podcast producer, has helped me immeasurably in every step of the way to dive into a podcast challenge. It's a sink or swim immersion to learn on the fly how to tell my story via the podcast. Jonathan, as a tech expert who continues to train me on how to utilize my new equipment to maximize all its features efficiently and effectively, has helped me to select my new computer and my iPhone and taught me how to use them from day one. Learning how to use my computer and phone at the same time I was creating my first podcast has been a huge stretch for me, having never been computer literate. Jonathan is an outstanding teacher and a great team member. We 3 are a perfect match, and I love working with him. So here I am telling you my story in my first podcast. I am giving you my best effort because I really feel motivated by the passion I feel to share my story and what I learned from my visit to Plélo. I want everyone to know the remarkable tie that binds Bretons and Americans to our shared World War II DNA trauma. I have always taken pictures and notes on my trips. Plélo was no exception. Melanie and many other new friends who I met in Plélo sent me photos, videos, and information. I am grateful to them for the resources they shared, and you will see many of their photos and quotes in this podcast. As usual, my eyes were bigger than my fingers could type, and I hope you will forgive any inaccuracies that may appear on this first attempt of sharing my experience at Plélo. My lighting and audio are a bit dodgy. I do not speak French and sincerely apologize for butchering the French language that I truly admire. I just don't want to leave anybody out just because I couldn't pronounce their names. Please feel free to advise me of the error of my ways. My story seemed to grow like Topsy. I thought I would just talk about the liberation of Plélo by Colonel Hamsley and his men. But I kept making connections with World War II in my childhood and throughout my life. These connections turned the first episodes into more of a memoir than I first planned. However, I never wanted to just write a history or travel log or event description. I'm not qualified to speak about any of those topics. I hope you will enjoy and relate to my story and the personal history that influenced my point of view about what I saw and felt during my experience in Plélo. If you enjoy this first version, I hope you would join me as I release the next version, replete with more videos, pictures, and in-depth interviews with all the wonderful people who will add immeasurably to my story of Plélo. Now that you have heard my story, jump on the German tank with me as we ride with Plélo's World War II convoy that traced Colonel Hampstead's liberation route. If you do, I swear, you'll hear Daddy saying, "You were there."